she was a mentor to someone who's very, very important to me. And I started to discover things. I just started discovering Ferguson Road, churches like this, and the Whistling Pig. I had a few drinks there. I don't know if I can say that in church or not. Okay.
Iced tea.
Yeah, iced tea, there we go. And I started to understand the story and what was happening, and I felt it was so apropos to what was happening in Dallas in so many places. You have worked hard for these 20 years. And sometimes, many times, let me just not say sometimes, many times, the city puts blocks up in front of you and hurdles in front of you. I realize that. Kind of divided between two districts. We have folks that don't quite understand the importance of investing in this area. I've been proud of our police force and what they've done through this time in trying to help you. Thank you, Chief Holt, for being here and what you do. But we are determined to see your success as our success. I know Councilman Clayton and I have talked about this and how important this part of the city is. And it's not just important because it's growing, but it's important because of how you have done it. We agree what was just talked about, that everybody's got a little bit of the divine in them. I love the Jewish theologian Martin Buber that says we need to move from an I-it relationship to an I-thou relationship. Because when we start to treat the other as divine, the divine comes out in ourselves. And the divine starts to come out in our city. And it was never truer than a couple of weeks ago when I went to a Friends of the Dallas Library event at downtown Eric Johnson Library. And Lawrence Wright was a special speaker. Now, Lawrence was a graduate of Woodrow, for those of you that were that. And he hadn't really been back to town forever till the 50th anniversary of the assassination of John F. Kennedy. He talked about what that meant as a Dallasite and what was happening to Dallas at that time. And not to be forgotten that somehow we were a city of hate. But he's been watching Dallas, and he just wrote another book. He had written a book, The Looming Towers, which he won major awards for, and he wrote a book called God Save Texas. And he came back during our police shootings where we lost 5 officers and other events that had taken place. And I couldn't stay for the dinner, and I was talking to some folks, and I said, I gotta go, and I went to the next spot. And Lawrence said, Mayor, stop for a second. And he grabbed me before I went out the door. And he says, I don't know what has happened in Dallas in the last 15, 20 years. But somehow you have created a city that's an antidote for hate. Not as a city of hate, but somehow that something's happening here that is pulling people together, and it's a loving city. And I was very proud of that. And of course, then he had to give me a talking to, and he said, your job is to spread that. We've got to have more of that in our state. We've got to have more of that in our country. And when I look at you, and I realize what you have done over these 20 years, yes, with public help, but sometimes in spite of public help, and how you pulled a diverse, inclusive community together, I think you are that antidote. And I'm so proud to recognize you with this. Everybody's got to have a leader, and there's nobody better than Vicki Martin. Vicki, would you come on up here? And then,